Welcome to CP Newsroom. I'm Nicola, and I'm joined by Steve FEDYSKI, President and CEO of the Pinnacle Forum. Welcome, Steve.
So good to be here, Nicola.
So the big talk this year was the Bible series, and you basically have a Christian couple using their influence, their resources to positively impact the culture for Christ. Now, this is exactly what the Pinnacle Forum does, correct?
That is one of the key reasons for our existence, is to bring Christian leaders together, put them in a forum, train them, equip them, and guide them, and send them into having a greater kingdom impact together.
Okay, and this one example is just of Christians impacting the arts and entertainment sector, but you believe there are 7 areas where Christians can make a positive impact for Christ.
Yes, we actually gather leaders from all areas of culture, so it could be from the government or the media, the business world, the church world, and we bring those leaders together in intimate forums that meet every other week or weekly. And the idea is so that the leaders know each other, develop trust, and can use their resources to have a greater impact individually and collectively.
Okay, and why does the Pinnacle Forum specifically reach out to Christian leaders and not necessarily just a broad swath of Christians?
Well, I think there's a sense of urgency that the culture needs some support and help. And so when you reach a leader, you have 100 or 1,000 X factor, because they usually have more influence, they usually have more resources. And so as the leader goes, we believe so does the culture.
Now, let's say, for example, let's bring it down to the church. Some Christians have the mindset that either maybe they're not very comfortable going out into the marketplace to engage people, to bring them in, or they may think, well, Christians should maybe separate themselves from the greater culture. But the Pinnacle Forum teaches the opposite, that Christians are to go out into the marketplace, correct?
That's absolutely correct. But also, you mentioned about sometimes a leader has had a non-church experience, or they're just uncomfortable with the church experience. And so we have an opportunity to reach out to those, if you will, unchurched, and bring them into a Pinnacle Forum and give them the reason for the importance of the body of Christ being, in the church. Christ loved the church. So I'll advocate to a leader that you need to go back to a church, support your church, love your church, and serve in your church. And then I teach the church leaders that it's really important for you to take these leaders that were within your church and encourage them to use their gifts and their influence to support you, but also to support the community. So it's really working on both sides, So Christ loved the church, we love the church. But a lot of people haven't had the experience that some people have had positive in the church. So that's why we come together.
Okay, so I'm sure part of the training for Christian leaders at the Pinnacle Forum is to help them maintain their influence on the culture as opposed to the culture influencing them.
Absolutely, Nicola. We have a 4-part process in a Pinnacle Forum experience when you meet every other week or weekly in your Pinnacle Forum. First of all, you're going to be encouraged, and we do a check-in on how you're doing. How you doing this past week or two personally? How you doing? How you doing with your finances and your life in general? How you doing with your family? How you doing in your vocation, your business, or whatever you're leading? And that's a check-in, so we can make sure we're open and honest with each other. So it's a great sanctuary for that. But then we move into a training, so we would call that equipping, the second E. So encourage and equip. And that's where we get into a biblical worldview training on different subjects and topics that would help leaders perform well out in their family, in their community, and in their organization as a Christian leader. And then the third part is engagement. And this really is where we help them understand that we should wield our influence in such a way that would be able to affect the culture. So engagement simply is like this: taking your experience, taking your spiritual gifting, taking also your passions, and when that converges, we want to fan that into flame so you're a more effective leader. So what that may look like is your peers are going to challenge you to where are you using your biblical influence, out in the community? Or what are you doing in your workplace as a leader that presents a Christian point of view? And those are the type things that we give practical experiences and practical ways we can sharpen and learn from one another to have more of an influence. So there's an old adage, is either you're affecting culture or the culture's affecting you. And we want to have more people trained and equipped affecting culture.
Now, very briefly, Since you mentioned that old adage of either you're impacting the culture or the culture is impacting you, a big fight right now culturally is the family and marriage. Some might say, based on the passing of or the redefinition of marriage in several states, that Christians are losing on that front. What do you say?
Well, I say we are losing on the front, but we can change the tide. And how we can change the tide is, it's proven that if you have a God-centered marriage, and there's prayer, and there's a biblical worldview in that, and it's a marriage that is centered on a husband and a wife, and you follow those principles, then you will have a transformational effect in your family, and your children will see a model of a father and mother in a God-centered, value-centered marriage that they'll want to replicate. And what's happened is, because the marriage and the family has been broken up so much, the models aren't there. So we're trying to take, even if you went through a divorce and you're in a pinnacle form, we want to help you on this next round, do it right. Or you can be an influence for your children's children. And so to me, I believe if you put and teach the principles of success into a marriage and family, it'll eradicate how the culture views marriage and family.
All right, thanks very much, Steve. Thanks for your input on sharing how Christians can basically impact every area of life and every area of culture for Christ.
It's great to be here.
All right, and thank you for tuning in to CP Newsroom. See you next time.